There is a saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. There is another saying that one needs to step back and look at the bigger picture. This video game, developed by Sad Owl Studios, applied those sayings and presented them on a visually interactive scale. Viewfinder was unlike anything I had ever played. As someone who loves taking photos, my understanding of Viewfinder was the camera eyepiece one looks through to see what's being photographed. With some background understanding on photography, terminology, and techniques, it came as no surprise that this video game would appeal to me. And the more footage I saw, the more I became convinced to experience it for myself. Viewfinder recaptured, no pun intended, what I love about photography as a hobby. The idea of stepping into a picture felt like the dream of wandering through artwork at museums coming alive. Viewfinder became more than just about taking photos, but also seeing the world through a different lens. Over the course of 6 hours, this video game would rely on images to not only unfold an underlying mystery, but completely transform spaces. In that short amount of time, many elements of this game impressed me, and I would like to share them in this video. Hopefully, this may encourage even the non-gamers to give this unique game a go. This is my review of Viewfinder. Originally developed as an experimental game, developer Matt Stark shared a video demonstrating a photograph from a game world and placed over real-world content. Stepping into the picture became magical. This is the concept of what this video game is about. Like the game Portal, the mechanics of stepping through one dimension into another comes into play here in Viewfinder. The video game soon evolved into interacting with objects taken within the photograph and using them for multiple purposes. This in turn created the Polaroid effect, which many of these images in Viewfinder turned out to be. This is taking the dream of seeing images of places and wishing you could be there. And that was what most of my experience was like playing this game. Dreamy. Primarily told from a first-person perspective, the main lead is Jessie. While the environments appear to be floating and even objects hovering in the sky, everything is not what it seems. It is obvious within the first few minutes of gameplay this is not a typical Earth. This is because it is all a simulation. Jessie is a researcher who undergoes simulated experiments. The timeline of this game appears to take place in a futuristic world where technology has advanced. Everything from shaping spaces and realities are easily toyed with, but also experimented to learn things about the past and build towards a hopeful future. My interpretation of the story Viewfinder was trying to tell were the themes of caring for the environment and the limitations of technology, each of them complementing the other. The impressive use of photos to change surroundings, but thus affect change them for the better or worse, speaks greater than the narratives and voiceovers in between gameplay. Voiceovers of other characters are narrated throughout gameplay, further adding to an evolving, mysterious story. There were 5 chapters in the story of Viewfinder, and each chapter would be a room belonging to a character. Scattered everywhere are images and notes from the character. While not telling much of them individually, but rather their perspectives of utilizing the simulated technology for greater purposes. The appearance of an AI cat guided the player and even shared additional backstories. It had taken me by surprise that this AI cat would often appear or disappear. The design of this cat was adorable, and even interacting it for a pet was a delightful treat. What made the concept of Viewfinder interesting was how mysterious the story was. It was not up front and center, because it was all about the gameplay and the experience. It was already mind-bending to use images, to play around with space, to however the player feels, making all the more relaxing to play. As revealed earlier, Viewfinder all takes place within a simulation. In each of its 5 chapters are a series of levels. Each level would consist of a puzzle to solve, and their environment are shaped and reflected of the character the chapter had taken place in. There is an environment that could easily be twisted at the player's will. By using images lying around, taking photographs with the camera, or even just walking by through hallways, there was always a surprise to discover. This made for a trippy experience. A vast range of colors, tones, shadows, and art styles would unexpectedly appear and often would have to be used to progress through a level. The contrast between different images made for a visually confusing one, but impressively engaging gameplay experience. The many art styles integrated in Viewfinder were impressively utilized. As clearly shown in this video's footage, it is obvious that the artists at Sad Owl Studios had a fun time using all kinds of art styles. Each art style that one could think of, from colorful oil paintings to shady pixels, every attention to detail could be seen. There were lots of surprises with a variety of images applied in gameplay. While even some were not required to complete puzzles, they were there just for fun. Some were also just as beautiful to look at and exciting to step in and explore. The variety opened opportunities to experiment within this game, also rewarding players with trophies in the process. Incredible transformations can be witnessed within Viewfinder. Summer was amazed we're even in the game at all. Stepping into some images not only changed the look of the game, but also the sound. The bizarre images also emitted sound effects when interacting with that image's environment, which I thought was a neat touch and incredible attention to detail. Successful game progression also rewarded players with filters. Just like with taking images, players can apply filter settings in gameplay, thus offering more freedom for the player to manipulate the spaces however they want to. It was so cool to change a filter every now and then, and to see how it would completely change the look of the game. Viewfinder is described as a first-person puzzle-solving game. While third-person games are my preference, I have played some first-person games, but not enough. It just made perfect sense that Viewfinder would be first-person. It was appropriate for the game to be structured and presented in this way. I could not imagine any other way to do it. Holding up the camera to your eye level would be what you would do. To see the full scale of images completely transforming the space further enhance the immersive gameplay experience from that perspective. Almost structured like a point-and-click adventure game, players can take a picture, step into a picture to change scenery or pick up objects, photocopy images to make duplicates of spaces and items, and align pictures to further add dimensions. But much of the pointing and clicking involved using the camera to take the picture. It was all about what images to use to bend reality and create new pathways to complete a puzzle. Viewfinder is a game where photography and topography intertwined with each other, literally. The images can create bridges between gaps, open blocked pathways, or teleport from one place to another. There was an option to rewind, which completely took me by surprise. This mechanic essentially became very useful and reliable when solving puzzles. The game is all about trial and error. The game progressively got harder. Many times I got stuck or stumbled, especially several times I fell and immediately had to rewind to get back up. Rewinding was a refreshing tool to have. The puzzles range in difficulty, some extremely confusing, that often restarting became the last resort. There were hints throughout, but players are encouraged to figure out the puzzles on their own. It was, after all, down to the player's experience of experimenting with images, play around with them, and eventually make use of them to the benefit of solving the puzzles. Players would feel more rewarded knowing they had figured out something on their own terms. Despite the short length to complete the game, Viewfinder was well praised for its impressive gameplay mechanics. Viewfinder technically integrated a variety of graphic art styles to great effect, at times complementing or contrasting each other. Players would often lose themselves in the different spaces that they created. Some levels even had more than one way to solve the puzzles. This gave players a range of different experiences, even at replay value, on how they would solve the puzzles differently and at a quicker rate. The soundtrack of Viewfinder was calming and laid back, presumably the kind of music one would want to listen to when studying or relaxing. Composed by AETHER, every level had their own music. Sound effects came into play when interacting with different images and the progression of puzzle completion. It was a soothing and lovely soundtrack to listen to. Considering this game involved a lot of thinking, it was comforting to know that this game's soundtrack appropriately played when it needed to. Viewfinder was an ideal puzzle game that was both relaxing and challenging to complete. It was also a mind-bending experience. This game truly tested perception, patience, and perspective. It provided liberty to play around with reality and grasp on seeing the world through a different lens. I believe anyone can enjoy this video game at their leisure and truly enjoy something different. Viewfinder is now available to play on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Windows for a digital purchase. And that is my review of Viewfinder. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out my channel for more. Would any of you be trying out Viewfinder? If you had already played the game, what did you think it was about? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. This is Pearl, signing out.